We open with that developing story, that terror attack that took place just south of Jerusalem. 3 terrorists opened fire at a checkpoint and 6 Israelis were shot. All of them were members of security forces, and at least one of which is in critical condition. 3 terrorists were neutralized on the scene. They were heavily armed, M16 rifles, pistols, and axes, as well as fake uniforms to disguise as soldiers. Security forces believe they intended to carry out a much larger scale attack deep inside Israel.
The terrorists were armed with M16 rifles, pistols and axes, and a huge amount of ammunition, which indicate that there was intention to probably carry out an attack on a completely different scale somewhere else, and only vigilance of the policemen who were at the checkpoint resulted in the thwarting of such an attack.
And witnesses captured the very moment of the attack on cell phone cameras. You can see right here some of a gun battle between security forces and terrorists. And we are now joined by Master Sergeant Dean Elzdon, Israeli Police International spokesman, joining us from Jerusalem. Dean, good to have you with us. Tell us what we know about this attack and what we know about their plans.
Well, we're still in the preliminary stages gathering the evidence, but what I can tell you is that this morning, 3 terrorists were heavily armed with M16 rifles, with handguns, and a large amount of ammunition arrived to the tunnels crossing that leads inside of Jerusalem. And thanks to the vigilance, the professionalism of all the security forces that were here, both Israel Police, Border Police, and IDF, including private security guards, they were able to thwart a much larger scale from taking place. These terrorists opened fire on our security forces, and our security forces, with sheer professionalism and determination, engaged them, managed to neutralize them, and large police forces then later arrived to the scene to secure the perimeter. We put a helicopter in the air. We brought K9 and bomb disposal units to secure the perimeter and make sure that there were no other threats to the civilians in the area. I just want to emphasize that when we speak about the police and the border police who are on the home front, saving and defending our civilians against terror, this is what we're talking about. This terror is acts against innocent civilians, and our officers are going to do whatever it takes, even if it means being the bulletproof vest for our civilians.
Dean, can we construct at this point a timeline of how this went down and what the response was like in real time?
I'm not going to get into the details because, as I told you, it's preliminary investigation. But what I can tell you is that approximately 9 o'clock this morning or so, the terrorists approached the checkpoint, the crossing, with a vehicle, and the license plate of the vehicle was indeed confirmed to be stolen. And the suspects themselves, 3 individuals who we can now confirm are from the Hebron area, raised the suspicion of the officers, and that's what we believe initiated the gunfire, initiated the gun battle that prevented the larger scale attack from taking place inside of Jerusalem itself.
Dean, is there a heightened level of alert around the country now? Is this suspected to have been part of a larger plan or isolated?
I can tell you that we are at war right now. Together, we're going to win the war, and we're not just saying that for no reason. The police officers, IDF soldiers are standing at a heightened state of alert because we're defending our families. We're defending our homes. And that's what we're going to continue doing. And God willing, we're going to get through this together.
Okay, thank you very much, Dean. And it's good that you have your men out there right now. Now, we're going to discuss this more in studio with Rafael Yerushalmi, former senior intelligence officer with the IDF. Rafael, we've been discussing the danger being posed by forces within the West Bank all morning long. Ultimately, we're seeing this start to flare up in these incidents like this. I guess the last question I had for the police is the same one that applies to you. Are these isolated, or is this part of a larger coordinated effort to create a new front?
Of late in the West Bank, there is not real palpable, tangible coordination, but there is an unspoken coordination. They do not need to send messages, if you will, or call one another from faction to faction, from cell to cell. They know that this is the order of the day. The order of the day, whether you belong or not to the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. In this case, the cell comes from Hebron. Hebron is a stronghold of the Hamas. People have understood that everybody is expected to perpetrate a terrorist attack, no matter where, how, and who you are. So in this particular case, we avoided something very dramatic, because what is also understood without being said in so many words is that a terrorist attack in the same mode as the 7th of October, meaning violent, cruel, ferocious against innocent civilians. The order is clear. It was given clearly to the Hamas cells, but it is also understood by other cells not depending on Hamas that this is the goal. Not just kill somebody in the street, but kill him with the most possible violent way. It should look atrocious, it should look bloody. That is the new trend, if you will, of the terrorist activity. And this is a huge threat for our civilian population, because they are the targets, not the army, not the police, the civilians, and especially the people who live in the settlements. They have to be very well protected right now.
We're going to continue this discussion in a brief moment, but first we're going to bring in the full updates of that war in Gaza. Israeli forces gaining ground in the south. The military announcing they have captured Hamas's docks, a combined raid by the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the engineering forces across multiple buildings used for terror activities. Hamas has previously attempted aquatic infiltrations into Israel and makes very extensive use of seaborne smuggling routes to bring in weapons. This alongside an important morale victory. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh's house destroyed in an airstrike. It's just one house out of many that was built with billions of dollars of stolen international aid money. It served as a meeting place for senior Hamas leadership. Hamas has previously said that 2 of Haniyeh's other homes were destroyed, but this is the first one that has been confirmed by Israel. The IDF also showed this evidence of Hamas's militarized hospitals across Gaza, a clear violation of all rules of war. This was found at Shifa Hospital. Hamas weapons, military equipment, intelligence technology. All this came after revealing another vast cache of explosives, advanced weapons, and hostage holding cells found at the Rantisi hospital just a few days ago. The Israel Defense Forces announced that 2 more soldiers were killed in the fighting yesterday in northern Gaza, bringing the death toll in the ground operation to about 50 now. The Biden administration has continued to reject any calls for a ceasefire, though they have been pushing for more short-term humanitarian pauses. Biden said this war will only end once Hamas is made powerless. And we are going to return to the studio to discuss this a little bit more. Major operational changes on the ground. Dock works captured. We've seen Haniyeh's house blown up for, I think, the 3rd time now. And we're talking about raids, the destruction of Hamas's parliament. These are all very good optics victories. They give Israel a sense of victory, but a sense of victory and actual ground accomplishments are not the same thing. We're only about 5 weeks into the war now. We have not seen any major top-level Hamas senior officials taken yet. Ultimately, how much is left to do in northern Gaza, and ultimately how much will be finished there?
So, first of all, destroying the parliament and the villas of the rich leaders of the Hamas is not just pleasurable, it is useful. We are destroying the symbols of the regime, the symbols of dictatorship. The Palestinian people of Gaza realized that they were held hostage by these rich and powerful fanatics of the Hamas. It dissociates them from the terrorist organization. They understand very well that they're getting rid of this horrible regime. So it's all in all, it's got some kind of use. It's not just for us to shout, victory and glory. It's useful. commanders of the Hamas are disconnected from reality. And this is due to the fact that we have now hampered the communications inside the Hamas. The chain of communication, the chain of commands are ruptured, and there's no way for them to know what is happening above ground. We might have a problem with the tunnels because we don't know where they are exactly, how we're going to find them, what we're going to find when we go in the tunnels, but they have the same problem the other way around. They don't know what's going on above ground. They have no idea what is happening in Shifa Hospital. Is the hospital evacuated, not evacuated? When are the IDF troops going to strike and where? All these, they are in utter ignorance. And also, as I said, they're also disconnected from the reality of the situation, meaning in their mind, in the mind of Mr. Sinwar, for instance, they're doing okay. They're doing well because they've forced us to come into Gaza, where they hope to entrap us. They are forcing us into a long war that is costing a lot to the Israeli economy. They have created havoc in all the normalization process with other Arabic countries. They have achieved a lot of things, and they have created a huge trauma for the Israeli population and the Israeli security forces by this so-called success of the 7th of October, which was, by the way, now we discover a complete failure because their plan was to reach even the West Bank and the other cities in Israel. So they only achieved 10% of what they wanted to achieve, which is horrible enough, of course, a huge catastrophe for Israel, but they had in mind much, much more than this. So they think that, and that's why the army has to continue and apply pressure. This is the only way, but we have still encouraging signs. First of all, more and more in the Gaza Strip, the opposition to Hamas and the normal population are hating Hamas. That's it. There is no more support for the Hamas. So that's still an achievement. And the Hamas will not come back into power, not only because the Israelis won't let it, but because the Gaza people don't want it to come back. So I think this is a big success. The rest will be to continue the pressure, because the encouraging sign is the start only, I'm very careful about this, the start of negotiations towards the liberation of the Israeli hostages. Until now, until a couple of days ago, the Hamas was not really negotiating. They were just playing with us, and they were cynically torturing us with this story of the hostages. Now they're really entering the bargaining process. It will take a long time. This is the Middle East, you know, the bargaining will take a long time, but they are in it. So this shows that they're starting to be quite disquieted, and they are starting to change their strategy. So it's just a confirmation that we should put the pressure on more. We should continue exactly to do what we are doing. We should destroy all the symbols of this horrible regime, all the symbols of the fanatical Islamist, jihadist, all these monuments, you know, that chant the glory of terror, should be destroyed. So we know that this war is also psychological. We know that it's not just the weapons that speak. There is a lot going on in the media. There's a lot of signals sent this way and that way. Same with Hezbollah. Half of our war with Hezbollah is military, and the other one is more like psychological. By the way, right now we have good news. After what I asked for a few days, to be proactive instead of reactive, we have now, at this moment, an attack of the Air Force under Lebanon that is proactive, not answering an attack from the Hezbollah, not out of the blue, but I would say initiative of the IDF to strike the Lebanon right now with our Air Force.
And before we continue this discussion, we are going to turn our eyes to the southern border. Our correspondent, Pierre Clochonler, is standing by just outside of Sderot, overlooking Gaza. Pierre, give us the latest in the battle on the ground there.
Right, I'm going to show you with Dean Barenbaum the small sector of the northern part of the Gaza Strip, which you can see here, which is quite active right now. You have on the left of your monitor a white screen. This is a smoke screen. Rockets from the Israeli Air Force were targeting some area there, and probably there are ground forces in the area that need that smoke screen in order to operate safely. And then on the right of your monitor, you're going to see some gray gray smoke, and this is from a bombing. It doesn't seem to be an Air Force bombing, maybe an artillery bombing, and this is close to the vicinity of the Indonesia hospital, which is one of the hospitals that have been encircled by the IDF and contains still in it patients, medical personnel, and also some population that displaced itself and seek shelter in that hospital. And for a few days already, the Indonesia hospital has been the focus of some of the IDF bombing. Not the hospital itself, but the vicinity of it. Now we hear that there was fighting not long ago near the University of Gaza City, and then earlier on overnight, the marina of Gaza City was taken over. 10 terrorists were killed. 10 shafts of tunnels were neutralized. What we also know is that on the humanitarian front, it's quite active also. 2 areas of Gaza City, Shejaiya and the Turkmen neighborhood, are benefiting from a tactical humanitarian post. The residents are urged to move to the Salahaddin axis, which is open from 9 to 4 p.m. local time, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. for 6-7 hours, like every day. And other neighborhoods of Gaza who are still the focus of operations, also there, the Israeli army urged the residents to move aside, to go east of Gaza City to the Salahaddin axis that could bring them to safety, or to more safety, at least in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, because in the central and southern part of the Gaza Strip, there's still bombing, such as in Khan Yunis earlier, and that bombing has been going on since the 7th of October, since Hamas inflicted a war on Israeli territory.
Well, definitely a lot of action on the ground behind you, Pierre. We're going to be back with you as that situation changes. Stay safe out there. That said, these terror groups aren't just located in Gaza. A massive counter-terror raid in Germany just took place. Police raided 54 locations suspected of Hezbollah-related activities. Germany's Interior Ministry opened an investigation of the Islamic Center of Hamburg. They've long been under observation by German intelligence services, saying that the Islamic Center promoted revolutionary Iranian doctrine and supported the proscribed Hezbollah terror group. The Interior Ministry said German intelligence believes that the Islamic Center exerts significant influence or full control over some other mosques as well as groups, and that they promote a clearly anti-Semitic and anti-Israel attitude. Said authorities are examining whether it can be banned, and materials seized during these searches will be evaluated. It's worth noting that earlier this month, Germany implemented a formal ban on activity by or in support of Hamas, and also dissolved Samadun, a group that was behind a celebration of Hamas's October 7th attack, following this pledge made by Chancellor Olaf Scholz after the attack. Now, for much more on this, we are joined by Polina Gav, our Berlin correspondent. Polina, it's good to have you with us. What do we know about what exactly was found in these raids?
Well, police is not sharing any sort of specific information regarding the nature of this alleged support that this organization and also 5 other organizations in Germany that are suspected of being linked to it, what kind of support it was offering Hezbollah. We don't know just yet. We also don't know exactly what was seized during these raids. But as you said, the hope is that this will be sufficient evidence to ban this organization, to ban its activity on German soil, which has been the subject of much criticism, especially in Hamburg. For many years, local politicians have been hoping for such a ban, complaining exactly about the influence that it's been exerting, the Iranian-inspired influence it's been exerting that contained, of course, strong anti-Semitic and anti-Israel elements. This is part of an ongoing trend that we've seen in Germany even before the war in Gaza started, where Germany is trying to minimize the influence that foreign countries like Iran, like Turkey, and like Saudi Arabia have over its local Muslim community, even launching local programs to train imams in Germany to make sure that the messages that they then pass on are in line with Germany's constitutional values. This seems to not have been the case with this organization, and the two especially major mosques that it was operating in Hamburg. Exactly what as it was seized, as I said, we don't know just yet, but the hope is for politicians that this will be enough to institute such a ban, to ban this organization the same way that Hezbollah has been banned in 2020, and therefore any sort of support, be it financial or ideological, is enough for authorities to take action.
Polina, when we're talking about large-scale raids like this, are we talking about simply things that go against, as you said, the German constitutional values, or was there a very legitimate intelligence threat that there were imminent attacks being planned by Hezbollah supporters?
Well, at least according to the information provided by the Interior Ministry, the precipice for this raid has been simply from part of the investigation that this organization is violating Germany's constitution and goes against its values. There has not been any specific information regarding a planned attack or any sort of strategic tactical support that was lended to Hezbollah and its activities against Israel. But as I said, that's enough. Simply ideological support, not to mention fundraising that we have seen on German soil in support of other banned organizations. That is enough for the German authorities to take action, even such large-scale action. We're talking about 300 officers taking part in raids across 7 federal states, 54 locations. This is quite a significant raid indeed.